Ethan saw her eyes first. Big, dark, filled with pain and fear. They were looking at him through the swirling snow. The 4-year-old boy stood by the kitchen window, his little palms pressed against the cold glass. Outside, snow was dancing. Large flakes fell onto their Montana ranch yard. Mom was making breakfast. The smell of pancakes filled the house. Dad was checking the livestock in the barn. Winter had come early this year, and brought the worst blizzard in 10 years. Ethan loved watching snow. But this morning something was wrong. Something dark lay by the old oak tree. It wasn't moving. "Mommy," the boy whispered. But Mom didn't hear. She was talking on the phone, speaking about closed roads, about neighbors without power, about how the storm might last 2 more days. Ethan pressed his nose to the glass. The dark something by the oak moved. Slowly. Barely noticeable. The boy's heart beat faster. It was an animal. A big animal. And it was hurt. He ran to the back door. His little feet in soft slippers tapped on the wooden floor. Mom was still talking. Dad was in the barn. Ethan pulled at the door handle. It was heavy. Cold wind hit his face. Snow got in his eyes and mouth. But he didn't stop. The boy stepped onto the snow cushion. The snow was deep, almost to his knees. Ethan made his way slowly. His breath was visible in the cold air. With each step he could see the animal better. It was a doe. A beautiful, brown doe. She was lying on her side. Her belly was very big. Ethan knew this doe. She often came to their yard. Mom called her Grace. The doe ate apples from their apple tree. Dad didn't chase her away. Now Grace was lying in the snow. Her right front leg was at a strange angle. Near her was a dark stain. It was blood. The doe's eyes were open. They were looking at Ethan. There was so much pain in them. So much fear. "Grace?" the boy whispered. The doe tried to lift her head, but couldn't. She only whimpered quietly. Ethan knelt in the snow. Cold seeped through his pajamas. But he didn't care. Grace needed help. The boy reached out his hand. The doe didn't pull away. She let him touch her head. Her fur was wet from snow. And very cold. "Don't cry, Grace," Ethan said. "I'm here." The wind howled stronger. Snow fell thicker. The doe was shaking. Not just from cold. From pain. Ethan saw that her belly was moving strangely. Not just from breathing. Something was moving inside. The boy didn't understand what. But he felt it was important. He took off his favorite jacket. The one Grandma had given him. Red, with little bears. Mom always said to keep it zipped up. But Grace was colder. Ethan carefully covered the doe with his jacket. It was small for such a big animal. But it covered her head and shoulders. The doe looked at the boy. Something new appeared in her eyes. Not just pain. Gratitude too. "Mommy!" Ethan shouted. His voice was lost in the wind. The house seemed far away, though it was only 30 steps. The boy looked at Grace again. Her breathing was fast. Shallow. Something was very wrong. Ethan remembered his favorite lullaby. The one Mom sang. When he was scared during thunderstorms. He began to sing quietly. In a trembling voice. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star. How I wonder what you are." The doe stopped shaking so hard. She was listening. Her big eyes didn't look away from the boy. Snow fell on them both. On the red jacket. On Ethan's brown hair. On Grace's brown fur. The boy kept singing. His fingers were red from cold. His feet felt numb. But he didn't move. Grace needed him. And that was the most important thing. Suddenly the doe whimpered louder. Her body tensed. Her belly moved stronger. Ethan didn't understand what was happening. but he knew he had to stay close. "Everything will be okay," he whispered. "I won't leave." The wind died down for a moment. In that silence the boy heard something. Voices. Distant but loud. "Ethan! Ethan!" It was Mom. She was looking for him. "Here!" the boy shouted. "I'm here!" Footsteps in the snow got louder. Mom was running toward him. Dad behind her. But Ethan didn't move from his spot. His hand lay on Grace's head. The red jacket covered her shoulders. "Grace is sick," he said when his parents came closer. "She's hurting." Mom stopped. Her face turned white. "Not from cold." Dad knelt nearby. His experienced eyes quickly assessed the situation. "She's getting ready to give birth," he said quietly. "Give birth?" Ethan repeated. "She's going to have a baby," Mom explained. "But she needs help." Grace whimpered again. Her body curled up. Something was happening. "What are we going to do?" Ethan asked. Dad looked at Mom. Then at the doe. Then at his 4-year-old son. "We're going to help her," he said firmly. Dad moved quickly but gently. His big hands checked Grace's injured leg. Mom wrapped Ethan in a warm blanket she had grabbed from the house. "Her leg is broken," Dad said softly. "And the baby is coming now." Ethan's eyes grew wide. "Right now?" "Yes, sweetheart," Mom said, kneeling beside him in the snow. "Animals sometimes have babies outside. Just like this." Grace made another sound. Deeper this time. Her whole body shook with effort. Something was definitely happening. "Can I help?" Ethan asked. Dad looked at his little son. Snow covered Ethan's brown hair. His cheeks were red from cold. But his eyes were determined. "You're already helping," Dad said. "She trusts you. That's very important." Mom ran back to the house. She brought towels, warm water in a thermos, and Dad's veterinary kit. Dad used to be a vet before they bought the ranch. "Talk to her, Ethan," Dad instructed while preparing his tools. "Keep her calm." The boy moved closer to Grace's head. His small hand stroked her neck. Her fur was getting warmer under his jacket. "It's okay, Grace," Ethan whispered. "My daddy is very good with animals. He helped our cow Bessie when she had her baby." Grace's breathing became faster. Her eyes stayed locked on Ethan's face, as if she understood every word. Dad worked carefully behind the doe. Mom held towels ready. The snow kept falling, but lighter now. "I can see the baby," Dad announced quietly. Ethan's heart jumped. "Really? Really? But Grace is tired. She needs our help to push." The doe made a long, low sound. She was trying so hard. But her broken leg made everything more difficult. "Come on, Grace," Ethan encouraged. "You can do it. You're the bravest deer I know." Mom smiled despite the serious situation. "That's right, honey. Keep talking to her." Minutes passed. Grace pushed and rested. Pushed and rested. Ethan never stopped stroking her head. Never stopped whispering encouragement. "The head is out," Dad said with excitement in his voice. Ethan leaned forward carefully. Through the space between his parents, he could see something small and wet. It was moving. "Is it alive?" the boy asked with wonder. "Very much alive," Dad laughed. "Here come the shoulders." Grace gave one more big push. Dad's hands moved expertly. Suddenly, there was a small, perfect baby deer in his arms. "Oh my!" Mom gasped. The fawn was tiny, covered in wet, spotted fur. Its legs were impossibly thin. But it was breathing. And moving. Dad quickly cleaned the baby's nose and mouth with a towel. The little deer made its first sound. A soft, sweet bleat. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. Happy tears. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Grace lifted her head weakly. She looked at her baby for the first time. Her eyes were soft now, tired but happy. Dad placed the fawn close to its mother. Grace began licking her baby clean. Her tongue moved gently over the spotted fur. "Is Grace going to be okay?" Ethan asked, noticing how tired she looked. Dad checked her broken leg again. His face was serious. "Her leg needs to heal. And she's lost some blood. She can't walk for several weeks. What will happen to them?" Ethan's voice was small and worried. Mom and Dad looked at each other. They had the same thought. "Well," Dad said slowly, "I think Grace and her baby need a safe place to stay. Until she's strong again." "Here?" Ethan asked hopefully. "We have that empty stall in the barn," Mom added. "It's warm and dry." Dad nodded. "We'll need to move them carefully. Grace can't put weight on that leg." The wind picked up again. Snow swirled around them. The little fawn pressed closer to its mother. "They're cold," Ethan observed. Without hesitation, he took off his warm hat. The one with the pom-pom that Grandma had knitted. He placed it gently over the baby deer. "There," he said with satisfaction. "Now you're warm too." The fawn looked up at Ethan with huge dark eyes. Just like its mother's. But without the pain. These eyes were curious and bright. Dad stood up slowly. "I'll get the truck. We'll make a soft bed in the back. I'll help carry supplies," Mom offered. "And I'll stay with Grace and the baby," Ethan decided firmly. His parents looked at their brave little boy, sitting in the snow without his jacket or hat, shivering but determined to protect his new friends. "You're a good helper, Ethan," Dad said with pride in his voice. While his parents prepared everything, Ethan kept talking to Grace. He told her about the warm barn, about the soft hay, about how safe they would be. The doe listened to every word. Her breathing was getting steadier. The immediate danger was over. But Ethan could see something in her eyes. Worry. Fear. Not for herself anymore. For her baby. "Don't worry," the boy promised. "We'll take care of you both. Forever and ever." The little fawn made another soft sound, as if it understood the promise too. Snow continued to fall on the strange little family. A 4-year-old boy, an injured doe, and a newborn fawn, connected by trust and kindness. Soon they would be warm and safe. But this moment in the snow would change all their lives. Ethan didn't know it yet, but he had just made 2 friends for life. And learned what it truly meant to help someone in need. The red jacket with little bears covered Grace's shoulders. The pom-pom hat warmed the baby deer. And love warmed them all. In the distance, they could hear Dad starting the truck. Help was coming. But the real help had already arrived. In the form of a little boy with a big heart. 3 weeks later, Ethan opened the barn door quietly. Inside, Grace was standing. Her broken leg was much better. The baby deer was nursing, its spotted tail wiggling with happiness. "Good morning, Grace," Ethan whispered, carrying a small bucket of fresh water. The doe turned her head toward him. Her eyes were bright and healthy now. No more pain. No more fear. Just warmth when she looked at the little boy. The fawn finished nursing and bounded over to Ethan. Its legs were stronger now. Not wobbly like those first days. It nuzzled against Ethan's hand, looking for treats. "Here you go, Spot," Ethan laughed, offering pieces of apple. Dad had said they shouldn't name wild animals. But Ethan couldn't help it. The baby had such perfect white spots on its brown coat. Spot seemed like the right name. Every morning for 3 weeks, Ethan had visited them. Before breakfast. After lunch. Before bedtime. He read them stories. Sang lullabies when Spot couldn't sleep during storms. Mom often found him asleep in the barn, curled up in the hay next to his wild friends. She never scolded him. She understood. But today felt different. Grace kept looking toward the open barn door. Her ears turned toward sounds from the forest. She was listening to something Ethan couldn't hear. "Dad," Ethan said later that morning. Grace keeps staring outside. Dad knelt down to Ethan's level. His face was gentle but serious. "She's getting better, son. Her leg is almost healed." "That's good." Ethan smiled. "Yes, it is. But it also means something else." Dad paused. "Grace and Spot are wild animals. They belong in the forest." Ethan's smile faded. "But they're happy here." "They are. Because you've taken such good care of them. But spring is coming. Spot needs to learn how to be a deer. Grace needs to teach him." The boy felt his chest tighten. "When?" "Soon. Maybe this weekend." That afternoon, Ethan sat with Grace and Spot longer than usual. He brushed Grace's coat until it shined. He played hide-and-seek with Spot in the hay. "I don't want you to go," he whispered to Grace. The doe lowered her head and touched her nose to Ethan's forehead. It was soft and warm, like a kiss. Saturday morning came too quickly. Dad opened the barn door wide. The spring air smelled like flowers and fresh grass. Grace stepped outside first. She walked slowly, testing her healed leg. It held her weight perfectly. Spot bounced around his mother. Everything outside was new and exciting. Butterflies, bees, fresh clover to taste. Ethan watched from the doorway. His parents stood behind him, hands on his shoulders. "They look happy," Mom said softly. Grace turned back toward Ethan. She walked to him one last time. Her nose touched his hand. Then she made a sound. Soft and low. Like "thank you" in deer language. "You're welcome," Ethan whispered, tears starting in his eyes. Spot ran back too. The young deer rubbed against Ethan's legs. Its fur was so soft. So warm. Then Grace called to her baby. A gentle sound that meant, "Come." Spot looked between his mother and Ethan. Confused. He didn't want to choose. "Go with your mama," Ethan said, even though it hurt. "She'll teach you important things." The fawn licked Ethan's hand once, then bounded to Grace's side. Together, mother and baby walked toward the forest. Their hooves made soft sounds on the grass. Ethan watched until they disappeared between the trees. He cried then. Happy tears and sad tears mixed together. His parents hugged him tight. "You did something very special," Dad said. "You saved their lives. And you learned to let go when it was time," Mom added. "That's the hardest part of loving someone." Days passed. Ethan missed his friends. He looked for them every morning. But the forest was quiet. Then one evening, while playing in the yard, Ethan heard a familiar sound. A soft bleat from the trees. There, at the edge of the forest, stood Grace and Spot. But they weren't alone. 2 other deer were with them. Spot had made friends. Grace walked a few steps toward Ethan. Not too close. She was wild again. But her eyes still held that special warmth. She made her gentle sound. The thank you sound. Then something amazing happened. She lowered her head and dropped something in the grass. A perfect white flower. The first spring flower of the season. "She brought you a present," Mom gasped from the porch. Ethan walked slowly toward the flower. Grace watched him pick it up. Then she made her sound again. This time it meant, goodbye. The little family disappeared into the trees. But Ethan knew they would be okay. More than okay. They would be free and happy. He pressed the white flower to his nose. It smelled like hope. Like new beginnings. Like love that never ends, even when friends must go their separate ways. That night, Ethan put the flower in his favorite book. To keep it forever. Years later, grown-up Ethan would still walk those forest trails. Sometimes he would see deer, brown does with spotted fawns, and he would wonder if any of them were Grace's grandchildren or great-grandchildren. He never knew for sure. But every spring, when the first white flowers bloomed, he remembered. He remembered a snowy morning when a little boy met a scared doe. When kindness was stronger than fear. When love created a family that would last forever in memory. The red jacket with little bears was packed away now. Too small for bigger Ethan. But whenever he saw children helping animals, he thought of that jacket. And Grace. And Spot. He thought about how the smallest acts of kindness can change everything. How love given freely always comes back. Even if it comes back as just a memory in a pressed white flower. But mostly, he thought about trust. How Grace had trusted a 4-year-old boy with her most precious thing. Her baby's life. And how that trust had made them all better. Kinder. Braver. More willing to help others in need. The white flower had long since faded to brown. But the love it represented bloomed fresh in Ethan's heart every single day. Some gifts last forever. Some friendships never truly end. And some snowy mornings change your life in the most beautiful way possible.